April 18, 1945. The edge of a shattered village outside Bremen. A lone British paratrooper lies pressed into wet rubble. Rain soaking through his smock, Lee Enfield braced against a broken window frame. His name is Lance Corporal Edward Collins. He hasn't moved in over an hour. Ahead of him, barely visible through drifting smoke, a German officer steps into the street, pauses, lifts binoculars. Collins doesn't rush it. He doesn't blink. He exhales, slow, controlled, and squeezes. 800 meters away, the officer collapses mid-step. Before the body hits the ground, Collins is already gone, slipping down a stairwell, vanishing into the ruins. One shot, one decision, one outcome. By the final months of World War II, British snipers were achieving something that quietly unsettled Allied planners. An unusually high first-shot effectiveness, often outperforming units fighting beside them on the same ground, against the same enemy. The question isn't whether it happened. The after-action reports confirm it. The real question is why, because the answer isn't about bravery, it isn't about talent, and it definitely isn't about luck. It's about a rifle dismissed as too slow. A training philosophy built around restraint, not aggression, and a mindset shaped by centuries of hunting, discipline, and patience. This is the story of how British snipers became silent precision weapons in the final year of the war. The numbers tell the first part. Between January and May of 1945, British sniper sections attached to the 21st Army Group recorded over 2,000 confirmed kills across Northwest Europe. Confirmation standards were strict. Every kill required verification by a spotter or independent observation. Internal summaries show that approximately 85% of those kills were achieved with the first round fired. By contrast, several Allied units operating in adjacent sectors averaged closer to 2 or 3 shots per kill during the same period. Same terrain, same weather, same enemy, different results. So where did the difference begin? With the rifle. While many Allied snipers favored semi-modern optics and lighter actions, British snipers stubbornly clung to the short magazine Enfield No.4T. It wasn't sleek, it wasn't fast to reload, and it wasn't fashionable, but it was brutally consistent. The Enfield's bolt throw was longer and slower, forcing the shooter to break rhythm between shots. That wasn't a flaw, it was intentional. British doctrine emphasized that if you needed a second shot, something had already gone wrong. More importantly, the No.4's barrel manufacturing standards were uncompromising. Cold-forged steel, hand-inspected rifling, and tight tolerances meant that once zeroed, the rifle held its point of impact even after prolonged exposure to mud, rain, and cold. At 700 to 900 meters, where minor inconsistencies become fatal to accuracy, the Enfield simply kept placing rounds where they were supposed to go. But hardware alone doesn't explain behavior. The real divergence came from training. While many Allied armies treated sniping as a tactical role that could be learned quickly by capable infantrymen, the British Army treated it as a discipline, closer to a craft than a skill. British sniper candidates were not simply selected for marksmanship. That was the minimum requirement. What mattered more was temperament. Instructors looked for men who could wait without fidgeting, who could watch without reacting, who could kill without emotional momentum. Psychological screening wasn't formalized on paper, but it was ruthless in practice. Candidates who rushed shots, who showed frustration, who craved action were quietly removed. Training lasted up to 14 weeks. The first phase was monotonous by design. Hours of breathing drills, dry firing, position refinement. Students fired thousands of rounds not to learn how to hit targets, but to learn how not to miss. Only after fundamentals were perfected did instructors introduce fieldcraft. Camouflage wasn't about blending in, it was about disappearing. Students were forced to crawl hundreds of meters across open ground, while instructors watched with binoculars. A single movement, a glint of metal, the slightest unnatural shadow, and the attempt failed. Some students repeated the same exercise for days. Then came observation training, learning to watch without acting, identifying rank by posture instead of insignia, recognizing command roles by behavior, not equipment. Shooting was the final step, not the first. Distance estimation was drilled relentlessly. Students learned to judge range by shoulder width, helmet shape, sound delay, even the way light reflected off fabric. A miscalculation of 40 meters at long range meant a clean miss and exposure. British doctrine treated a missed shot as operational failure. That mindset followed them into combat. British snipers were rarely embedded directly with assault units. Instead, they operated in small, autonomous teams, often detached for days. Their mission wasn't body count, it was disruption. Kill the radio operator, then wait, eliminate the platoon sergeant, then disappear. Force the enemy to hesitate, to doubt movement, to fear daylight. Consider Sergeant Thomas Hale operating near the Weser River in March 1945. Over a 48-hour period, Hale fired 6 shots. All 6 targets were officers or specialists. German movement along that sector ceased entirely during daylight hours. No firefights, no counterattacks, just absence. Captured German reports from late 1944 reflect this effect. Several documents describe British snipers as unpredictable and patient to the point of invisibility. Officers were instructed to avoid windows entirely and limit binocular use. The impact wasn't just tactical, it was psychological. Where constant fire creates resistance, silence creates fear. There was another factor that rarely gets discussed: cultural conditioning. By the early 20th century, Britain had a deeply embedded tradition of hunting and competitive marksmanship, particularly in rural England, Scotland, and Wales. Many recruits arrived already accustomed to single-shot discipline. You didn't fire unless you were sure. You didn't waste ammunition, and you didn't rush a kill. This wasn't sport shooting. It was necessity. British training didn't need to undo bad habits. It refined existing ones. Contrast that with forces whose doctrine emphasized fire superiority and aggressive engagement. Their snipers were encouraged to seize opportunity. British snipers were taught to reject it. The difference showed in outcomes. As the war progressed, Allied sniper effectiveness improved across the board. Experience closed the gap. By April 1945, first-shot kill rates among many units had risen sharply. But British snipers had been operating that way from the beginning. After the war, multiple Allied reviews quietly acknowledged this disparity. British training methods were studied, adapted, and in some cases adopted outright. The lesson was clear. Precision isn't created by urgency. It's created by restraint. Today, modern sniper doctrine across NATO reflects those same principles. Extended training pipelines, psychological screening, emphasis on first-round impact over volume. The lineage is direct, and it traces back to men like Edward Collins, lying motionless in the ruins of a dying Reich, waiting not for a target, but for the right moment. One shot, one purpose, no mistakes. Because in that world, you didn't get credit for how many rounds you fired, only for the one that mattered.